Hello, this video is part 2 of graphing sine. Video part 1 shows what you're currently seeing, all the parts of the general equation for the sine formula. We're going to be referring to this as we work out the problem. So this is the problem that we'll focus in. Everything is color coded on the top right hand side, and I'm going to use these colors for finding out the values of everything and graphing it. We're going to start with the amplitude. The amplitude is the number that multiplies the sine function. In this case, the amplitude is 2. In order to get the amplitude, we take the absolute value of 2, which is equal to 2. The absolute value makes any number into a positive number. We also have the angular speed. Angular speed is the number in front of the x. So in here, there is no number that you can see, which means there is a 1. We're going to say b is equal to 1. Then we're looking for the period. Remember, the period is 360 degrees over b. For this problem, we'll be using degrees. So this is equal to 360. b is 1, which has got it on the step before. So 360 divided by 1 is 360. The phase shift is if you're adding or subtracting anything inside the parentheses. If you look at the formula on the top right hand side, that would be right after the x. In our case, there is nothing because there's nothing after the x, so we will say that c is equal to 0. In other words, no phase shift. Because 0 means you just stay in the same spot. We also have the vertical shift, which would be anything added to the sine function. There is nothing here. So in this case, d is equal to 0, and we also have no vertical shift. If it was a positive, then we would say to the right. If it's a negative, we would say to the left for the phase shift. For the vertical shift, the positive moves up, a negative moves down. Now that we have those parts, we need to start graphing the equation. Everything is blank here, so we have to determine what we're going to be graphing. The amplitude is 2. That means that the highest that we go is going to be 2. Let's start by labeling the vertical axis. We start with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and negative as we go down. We are also going to be dividing the graph into 2 cycles. That's how much we're supposed to graph for this problem. Now, the interval is obtained by, we take the period and we divide it by 4. The reason we divide by 4 is, let me show the circle that we're going to be using for the graphing. There are 4 major points on the circle. 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, and 0, negative 1. Those are the highlighted ones. If we are supposed to divide by 4, then we need to divide the 360 degrees by 4, giving us 90 degrees. So each interval is going to be composed of 4 90-degree sections. Let me start by labeling that on the x-axis. We start with 90, 180, 270, 360, and so on. So that is 2 rotations around the circle. From 0 to 360, that's going to be the first cycle. And then from 360 to 720, that's going to be the second cycle. Now we are ready to begin. We are going to start by substituting the different x values right here into the original sine function and determine what values we get. We'll start with f of 0. That would be equal to 2 times sine of 0. So what is sine of 0? We look at the function. Remember that sine of any angle is equal to y over r. We'll pick y at 0. So we're right here in this point. Y is equal to 0. R is equal to 1. Remember, the radius is 1. So instead of writing sine of 0, we're going to put y is 0 over r, which is 1. So we have 2 times 0, which is just 0. Therefore, at 0, sine is 0 right here. I'm starting to graph the first point. For the second one, we are going to have to plug in 90. So f of 90 equals 2 times sine of 90. At 90 degrees, now we are looking at right here. So we use the top point. We get 2 times sine of 90. We substitute y is 1, the radius is 1, so 1 over 1. That means 2 times 1, which is equal to 2. So 92. We do the same thing for the next point. This is 180. Now we're looking at the third point right here. 2 times sine of 180. Remember that sine of 180 is 0 over 1. Y is 0. So 2 times 0, that would be 0. 180 is at 0. So I'm just graphing this point on the graph as well. Next is f of 270. So this is 2 times sine of 270. 2 times 270 would be the point at the bottom. Notice that the y is a negative 1 and the radius is 1, making it 2 times negative 1 equals negative 2. So 270, negative 2. We then do f of 360, which is going to be the same thing as f of 0 because we do a full turn. And f of 0 was 2 times sine of 0. I'm going to put it as 360, but it's the same thing. 2 times 0 over 1, which is equal to 0. And we have just completed one cycle of the sine function. The second cycle will be exactly the same. So we'll go at 2, 0, negative 2, 0. And I'm going to make this one a dashed line just so that you see that one is the first cycle, the other one is the same cycle, the